everyone, it's Emily with All In Bookkeeping. I'm back with another update on starting my own bookkeeping business. I first of all want to say Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas. Today is November 30th, so last day of November. Last week was Thanksgiving, so I hope you all had a wonderful time. Hopefully you were able to spend time with friends and family and just to enjoy a little break. I want to tell you that it was the best Thanksgiving week for me personally because I have spent the last 5 years working full-time and just recently quit working full-time for my previous employer. And I was able to be home the entire week of Thanksgiving break with my kids while they were home from school as well. And so I was just so excited, and it just filled my heart with so much joy, and it just was another reminder as to why I'm doing this. Okay, so maybe that's a similar reason that you have to spend more time at home, be with your kids when they're off of school. I don't know. But whatever your why is, your reason for doing this, just take a second right now to just recall that reason into your mind and just, focus on that. Let that renew you right now. If you're feeling burnt out, down and out, why am I doing this? This is too hard. If you have started your own bookkeeping business or your own business, if it's something other than bookkeeping. But so that was just really a great refresher for me personally, and just to remind me of why I'm doing this and how I was able to benefit from me having my own business and being at home with my kids. So moving on to the updates. Last time I was talking about my 2 bookkeeping clients that I had. I now have 1 bookkeeping client, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that first, and then there's one other thing I'm going to talk about. It'll come to me when I get there. But so first of all, I did have 2 bookkeeping clients, and I was so excited. One was set up the way that I want to have my ideal client set up, which is on a plan. And so I have, I give them an estimate for bookkeeping services, and they agree to that, and they pay me regularly and just trust me to do the work that I told them I'm going to do, which I do. And then the other client that I had, who I no longer have, they were a new startup company, and they were literally in like the first few months of starting up their business. And I really don't think that they were at a point where they really needed to have an external bookkeeper or an outsourced bookkeeper. But the guy was really excited, and I told him about my services and what I provide and why I provide them and what the overall goal is. So he was excited, and he wanted me to start right away, which I did. He wasn't ready to commit to a plan yet, so I was providing work for him hourly, which was actually not in his favor financially. It does cost a bit more to do that like a la carte rather than just on a plan. So I would look at his books at least once a week. I try to do twice a week because it turns out he had a lot of transactions coming through because he was still using the credit card and debit card for personal purchases, for personal use. So when those came through, I still have to categorize those. So it was taking a lot of time, and he had a lot of purchases, a lot of transactions coming through. So it just took a lot of time, and he was very quick to pay. Every week when I would send him an invoice, he would pay it very quickly. We had a very fruitful Zoom meeting together. I kind of went over what I was doing and why I was doing it, and kind of had some suggestions for him. And he was just on board with everything that I was saying. He was telling me how thankful he was for me, and that I'm really helping him out. and I was really teaching him about all of this, things about his business. I was teaching him things about QuickBooks. But we still weren't to the point where I was just getting all the necessary information I needed to process the transactions, categorize them and classify them and all that, the way that we had discussed that he wanted to have it done. And so I would go ahead and create the transactions in QuickBooks, but I would kind of guess at the category, and then I would, if I really didn't know what class it needed to go in, I would just leave it unclassified, so that when you pull up, if you do that, if you're not sure what classification, and classifications are different than categories. So in QuickBooks Online, categories are basically the accounts from the chart of accounts, but they call them categories. So that's really deciding which account for it to go in. Classes you can use. It's an optional feature. But I typically, if my clients have certain revenue streams that they want to keep track of, then we start using classes to track those revenue streams. So every transaction, whether it's an expense or a bill from a vendor, or an invoice or a sales receipt for a client, we classify each line of that transaction and it can be just for different revenue streams. And then I also have a class. I always add a class or include a class for overhead. So if it's not to a specific revenue stream, then it just goes overhead. But when you pull up your profit and loss by class, each class you set up, you'll see it in a column. And so you'll see like total sales for that class, and then any expenses that have come through that you've also classified to that revenue stream. It'll be in that column, and you'll be able to see like a gross profit and net profit for that class specifically. So if you've left anything unclassified, it shows up in a column. It's called unclassified, or I think it's not specified. So that's a good way to just when you're closing out the month, you click that number, and it'll show you all the transactions that are not classified, and you can review those with your client, and they can give you some insight on what the purchase was exactly and what class it needs to go to. So anyways, we had decided on classes, revenue streams that he wanted to keep track of, and so I was literally doing everything the way he told me specifically that he wanted it done. Where there was room for variation, or where there was options available. Of course, I was, I always do everything according to how it should be done, just in the accounting world in general. But then when there are options for the business owner to choose on how to classify things or categorize things, he gave me information on specific transactions. So I was in the middle of going back through those transactions, again, and set up the way he wanted it to be, or categorized the way it needed to be. Anyway, so we were going along great for a few weeks, and then I was invoicing him weekly. So there was 1 week where I had to spend a little bit more time. Of course, that's more money. And so I think right after he got that invoice is when he texted me, and his message said, I guess I'm just not sure what I'm paying for. So, well, okay. So I didn't respond right away. It's always a good idea not to respond right away, kind of think through things, so you can provide an appropriate response and a professional response. So I think the next day or two I responded and just reminded him of things that I'd already gone over with him that he seemed to have understood. So reminded him of what I was doing exactly and why I was doing it, and that the things that I do can only be as accurate as information that's given to me. But the information you've given to me, I'm working off of that. And anyways, and and I reminded him, I wanted to work with him so that he can reach his business goals, so he can grow his company successfully. And I think it was at the point where he just realized how much money he was spending. And he probably, to be honest, for him at that point of his company's growth, it probably wasn't that beneficial to him to spend that much money. Like if he wanted to get someone to just, do the basic bookkeeping, and they might not even have a good foundational knowledge of bookkeeping, but you probably get someone to do it for much, much cheaper, but their quality of work will be a lot less, in my opinion. And things may or may not be done correctly or in the advantageous way that it could be done for tax purposes. So he later on he texted me again, like several texts in a row, and it was pretty late one evening, so I didn't know if I didn't know what was going on with him at that time, but or what was causing all these texts to just kind of come through out of the blue. But he was saying that he was in his QuickBooks account and looking over the transactions, and that everything was wrong, and now he had to spend time to go in and fix everything. And I was very surprised by this, very confused. It just, like I said, it just seemed to come out of the blue. So I didn't respond right away, of course. I think I waited another couple of days, and I replied, wanting to see if we could get on a phone call or get on the Zoom meeting or something, meet in person if he was up for that, because he is local. And I need to see what he's seeing as wrong, so I can either explain to him why it's not wrong, or possibly there are things that are wrong, but what I was doing, it was correct as far as I could tell, and I was doing it the way he had instructed me to do it. So he never responded. I did reach out one more time after that, I think by email, and then a second follow-up text message, just again asking, hey, can we meet about this? I'd love to talk about this. I need to know what it is that you see that's wrong. So, I don't, if it is something legitimately wrong, I don't want to keep doing that for other clients or whatever. But he never responded, so I really was very confused, because we just had such a good standing as far as I knew the last time we had met. So anyways, it's been a couple weeks since that happened, so I'm putting that in the past and moving on. So for my current client, he is more of my ideal client. He is on the plan that I have. We have a bookkeeping agreement, and but he loves what I do. He definitely sees the value in what I do, and I make sure to provide the value, and I deliver on what I say I'm going to provide. And so we actually met the weekend before Thanksgiving, and in person, because I really needed to like sit down with him and go through because he had a long list of transactions as well that were unclassified. So you guys, this is very important. You need to train your clients as soon as possible to get you all the information that you will need in whatever specific way you need them to get it to you. So they do use the QuickBooks app on their phone to take pictures of receipts, and I tell them to just take pictures of anything, even if in the end I'm not going to use it as a receipt to create a transaction, but just anything so I can see it, and then I can do whatever I need to do with that information. Then I can just delete the image from the QuickBooks account. So when you write a check, take a picture. If you receive a bill, take a picture. If you have someone fill out a W-9, one of your labor contractors fill out a W-9, just take a picture. So that way it could just get to me very easily. And that's an easy way for them to do it if they're already using that for receipts. The other way we talked about is I did set up the QuickBooks email for them so they can forward PDFs of purchases, any invoices from vendors that they have, They do make a lot of purchases from Amazon, and I have no idea what the purchases are. So I kind of just put it in a catch-all category, and I leave it unclassified, so that way when I was reviewing all these transactions with him, I just look at anything that had been unclassified, and so he can give me input on what those purchases were and how to classify them appropriately. So make sure to train your clients. Well, first you need to decide what is the best way for you to receive information, and then you also want it to be easy and simple for them. If you're adding too much burden or too many new things onto their plate as well, it's just not going to work. I mean, it'll work, but you don't want to make it add more time consuming tasks to them, because the purpose of you coming in and doing this is to give them more time to work on the business. So as long as they understand, the first month to 3 months, it could be a little rocky as they're getting everything figured out and kind of getting in the groove. So setting up the email, because if they purchase from Amazon, you have to assume that they get the email confirmation, and it'll be very easy for them to just hit forward and then put in that QuickBooks email address, have it saved to their contacts so that it just pops up when they start typing it, and just forward it on that way. And so when you, as their bookkeeper, are in their QuickBooks Online account, you can see that information right there, and you know what the purchase was for, and you can create the transaction from that information. So I told him, though, one way I'm trying to train him is when he gets a receipt, before he takes a picture of it, I need him to write 2 things on there. And he needs to write exactly like what the purchase was for. If it was cost of goods sold, if it was materials specifically, if it was just for job supplies, shop supplies, office supplies, he needs to write the category on there. And then the second thing, he needs to write the class. So if it is for a particular revenue stream, it needs to be written on the actual paper before he takes a picture of it. So when he takes a picture, I'll see all the information, and it'll cut down on back and forth time with the client, because I don't want to be bothering him all day while he's trying to work on the business, because that's part of the value I give them, is that they don't have to be touching all this bookkeeping stuff. So but if you can train them to give you the information you need, all at once, right up front, then the better off you'll be, and of course the better off they'll be. So when they see the value in that, hopefully, it shouldn't be a problem for them or a burden for them to do that right before they take a picture of the receipt. So we're going to see how that goes. I did tell him that I was going to create a list of different categories for him to choose from, and then a list of the different classifications that we've come up with. And I'm going to send that to him. He's going to have his assistant print it out and laminate it. I said, put it in this room right here where you do the receipt capturing, where you keep all the records, so that when you are going to take a picture of something, you can see here, you choose, for the 2 options, you choose one of these categories and you choose one of these classifications. Write it simply down on the receipt, and then take a picture of it, and then we're good to go. And of course, and like I said, that'll just cut down on back and forth time. Hopefully we won't need it to have a 2-hour meeting every month to go over these unclassified transactions. So I have one client, but he is my ideal client. The other client really wasn't my ideal client, so I was kind of seeing what was going to happen. I was hoping that it would turn into something more regularly. Since it was an issue of just so much money, because he was paying me hourly, I did send him a tentative proposal for a bookkeeping agreement, and he would have saved so much more money. And plus I outlined, again, the services and the value that I provided those services, but he never responded to that. So again, I'm just not sure what happened. Maybe in the future we'll reconnect, but I'll be much more careful on moving forward with him and his company. I'll just make sure to ask a lot more questions. And anyway, so I've learned that a company does need to be at a certain place to be able to afford an outsourced bookkeeper and see the value in having an outsourced bookkeeper, and just how much time it's going to save them, because you should, there's just kind of like this sweet spot, I think, because my current client, he's been doing this for a few years now. It was a hobby, a passion that kind of turned into something more. So now he's at the point where just all his stuff, it's starting to take off. And up until this point, of course, as a business owner, you're doing everything yourself. And so he's gotten to the point now where he's realizing it's time to prepare for growth. So that's when he reached out to me for bookkeeping. He's interviewing people now to come in and help make the products in the shop, because he realized he just can't spend the time doing that right now, because he's meeting with clients all the time and selling products and growing his business. So, and that's exactly my purpose, is to help the business owner spend time growing their business. And I'm kind of like their cheerleader, their encourager. Of course, I want them to be successful, and I want them to always know that I'm on their side, and I'll do whatever I can as far as bookkeeping goes, and tracking information for goals for them. So it's just really important to know your ideal client. So you need to spend time identifying that if you haven't already, and it's kind of a work in process. I mean, you're not. You might have that all like figured out, and then as you start and you go down your bookkeeping business journey, and you'll kind of be able to fine tune that as things go on, and you go through clients and you realize I don't really want to work with these people, or it's just not working out, and you identify the reasons why it's not working out, and then you can fine tune the definition of your ideal client. And that should help you with your marketing as well, to know exactly, who to reach out to and who to try to target with your messages. I think that's about it right now. I'm still doing project work for my previous employer, so that is taking up actually a bulk of my time every week right now. I am going, marketing, I just talked about that. I need to step up my game with marketing myself. I need to get back to doing it at least 3 times a week. Figure out a post that I want to post and that I want to put out there, and then I put the same post in all 3 of my platforms that I'm on. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and then Google Sites. I don't yet have an official website. I'm still trying to wait on that, because I'm just not sure that if I need that, and that you have to spend a lot of time on that. Well, not a lot of time, but it takes time away from you doing your books and serving your customers. So I'm still thinking about that, but Google Sites right now is fine, and I get like an email every week or month or whatever, and it tells me how many people have viewed your Google site, who has looked up directions. It gives you these different stats, so I can tell, or like it tells you like, okay, this picture had the most views, or this post had the most views. But anyway, so those are the 3 platforms I use, but I really haven't been spending time on any marketing, but I need to kind of get back into it, because as of January I should have time. I'll be done with this other project that I'm working on, and I should have time to take on some clients. My goal is to take on 1 to 2 clients, new clients each month for cleanups, and I'm hoping to reach people who are needing to get their books in order for tax time, and I think I can fit in, I know at least 1 obviously, but I think I can fit in 2 like 12-month cleanups into 1 month, so we'll see about that. I think it's possible, especially if I have this other project out of the way. I'm no longer at my full-time job. I'll just have school to worry about, but I do that in the evenings usually. So we'll see. And I want, that's my goal, to get 1 or 2 new cleanup clients each month, at least for the first few months, and obviously to convert them to regular bookkeeping clients. So if you have questions, put them in the comments below. I do respond to comments and questions. So Don't be shy. Remember to like this video, share it with other people who might be on the same journey as we are and could use this information and encouragement. I hope it's encouraging and helpful to you guys. And of course, subscribe to the channel, to my All In Bookkeeping channel, so you'll get notified every time I put up a new video so you won't miss out. Thanks everybody, and have a great day.